If you were no longer affected by the judgment of others and you stopped judging yourself, would you make different choices? Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here's the host of Inspired Choices Radio Show, Possibilities Coach, Christine McIver.
Well, here we are again, folks. How are you tonight? This is Christine, and it is a beautiful spring evening. The sun is just starting to set. I can see out my window here in beautiful Toronto, Canada, and it's April, and it's everything's starting to bud and everything's coming to the surface, and it is so gorgeous. And tonight we're going to be talking about vulnerability, and let's see what's going to come to the surface on that. So tonight's show is, are you willing to be vulnerable? So, we've had a lot of things, interesting topics of late. We've been talking about some pretty potent subjects that kind of tweak people, and this is going to certainly be another one of those. And it's a subject that a lot of us want to know about, but very rarely want to talk about. It definitely can bring up a lot of stuff, and I'm just open to seeing what else we can change with this so that it can be much more ease for all of us. And I know that it can create greater when we're willing to be vulnerable. So hence the topic, are you willing to be vulnerable? So before we get into tonight's show, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. If this is the first time you've been here, know that I am a possibilities coach. I've been coaching for more than 10 years now, and I love working with individuals in the areas of anything that really keeps them stuck. I enjoy working in areas where they have low self-esteem, or they want to build up their confidence, maybe in relationships. I have a program called Divorce with Dignity, and I also love working with people in business. That's one of my most favorite things, and I actually have a program called The Pleasure of Business, and that's where we take all of your creative, amazing ideas, and we help to bring them to fruition through all of the tasks that sometimes feel really heavy and uncomfortable to do, and we make this all pleasurable. So besides those things, I am an Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator, and I facilitate both the bars classes and the foundation class. And we actually have one coming up starting Friday in 2 days, if that's something you're looking for. It's actually going to be live streamed from Paris. So we're going to be starting at 3:30 in the morning. So it's going to be fun. So check with me next week to see how I made out. So that's a lot of fun. And I am doing those classes on a regular basis. So if that's something you're looking for, the bars or the foundation, please do get in touch with me. You can do so at inspiredchoices.ca. So I'm also a radio show host, as you know, a producer, and I'm the creator of the Inspired Choices Network. I don't feel like I'm the owner so much anymore because so many of our amazing hosts really own the creativity as well. So I'm very fortunate to be someone that gets to create with all these amazing radio show hosts here on the network. So if you're looking for some motivating radio shows, if you're looking for some amazing content to listen to while you're working or walking or driving, or just you're looking for something to really contribute to you, there are thousands of archives here on every subject you can possibly imagine. And just jump into inspiredchoicesnetwork.com in the archives, and you will be sure to find something that will tickle your fancy. So tonight we are talking about vulnerability. Are you willing to be vulnerable? Are you willing to be vulnerable and lead with your heart? Have you been hurt in the past and decided that that is never happening again? What if your greatest desires are just behind that thick wall of insecurity you have built? Are you now willing to change your life and create the joy you know is possible? So let's talk about vulnerability. What is vulnerability? So many of us have decided and concluded that vulnerability is something that can hurt us, something that can actually create pain and suffering. I think we've misidentified being a victim with being vulnerable. So oftentimes when people are maybe being intimidated or being bullied or being abused, we feel like we have to put up our walls. And when we're putting up our walls, we've decided we can't be vulnerable because that means we are going to actually be hurt. When I work with people in business, a lot of times they talk about they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to let people know too much about them personally because they feel like it's considered weak or unprofessional. That when they do that, people are going to ignore them. That people are going to reject them. You know what? I have found in my years of business, and especially doing the radio show, that nothing is farther from the truth. That when you are willing to put it out there, when you are willing to say what's really going on with you, it draws people in. And Faith says the phrase vulnerable to attack comes up. So I think that what you're saying about misidentifying vulnerability is true. I did just hear a cork pop. I don't know what that was. It wasn't me. Okay, so now our computers are making some fun sounds. How's it getting better than that? So, I've done some radio shows, and they have been pretty raw for me, and I've actually cried on the radio. I can tell you my very first radio show, I've told this story before, and I often tell it to new hosts that are thinking of starting a radio show. My very first radio show, I actually was so incredibly emotional. There was a lot of joy. There was a lot of, what I thought was fear and insecurity bubbling up. And as soon as the radio show started, I started to cry. And I was talking about the gratitude and the joy and the excitement of having a dream come true, of actually creating the opportunity to have a radio show. It is something that I never even imagined. And I started to cry, and I was crying for the first 15 minutes, basically, of my radio show. And here I am, 6 years later, still doing radio. So it didn't stop me, and it didn't crush me, and it didn't destroy me by any means. But, I've done some radio shows as well where I've really told where I've been operating from, or what's been going on in my life, or what I've created, or some of the choices that I've made. And it's really kind of cut pretty close to my heart. And those are the shows where I've had more people reach out to me and say thank you. Because when you are actually, so many times, when you are willing to be vulnerable, when you're really willing to drop your barriers and you're willing to be present with someone and you're sharing what's really true, you're connecting with someone. They connect with you because they will identify in themselves where that's occurred. And they will honestly see you as being really brave. And there's this thing that I watch with people is like they reach out and they say, "Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing what you shared tonight," or "Thank you for the conversation today," or whatever the case may be. And what I really get underneath there, what I'm aware of, is there's something inside of them that they wish that they could take that step. They wish that they could actually be that vulnerable and let that come up. And, that has been a huge blessing. And I've said this before, it's one of the things I'm really grateful for about myself, because I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to go where I need to go to change and create what it is that I desire. I am so willing to be there. And it's not always comfortable. I can tell you that. I can remember one of these classes that I was in once, and I was so sure that I was the most unintelligent person in that class. I really believed everybody else was smarter than I was. And I was standing, I finally got up to the mic after 4 days, and I was shaking. I was shaking like a leaf. And it was actually with Access Consciousness and Gary Douglas. I don't even know what I was saying to him. And he out of the blue said something. And my greatest fear was that people would laugh at me when I was standing at the mic. And of course I was crying and trembling and oh my gosh, I thought I was going to faint. And whatever he said, everybody in the room started to laugh. And I thought I was absolutely going to be swallowed up by the humiliation and embarrassment and all the rest of it. And thankfully, there's a part of me that doesn't have me run. I stood there and I'm like, oh my God, I'll look more like a fool if I run. So I stayed there and I continued to have the conversation, and I was still, in tears and all the rest of it. And afterwards, I was shaking and I was upset. But what that actual choice created for me was it got to a place and a space inside of me I wasn't willing to acknowledge and I wasn't willing to identify, and it was cutting off, creating massively in my life. So what if you were actually willing to play with being vulnerable with someone, to play with being present? What if you really stepped into knowing that nothing can truly ever destroy you? Right? What might that create if you were willing to just let your barriers down and really be present? One of the things that I absolutely know is we have a much smarter society. People are more educated. They're more exposed to the truths. They can see through. People are so much more in touch with awareness today. We have smarter children. We have smarter students. We have smarter employees. People are aware. They know what's going on. And you may not be able to, or other people may not be able to actually say, you know what, that person's lying or that person's holding back or whatever the case may be. But you know what? Oftentimes when people have got these walls up and they're not willing to get real, their clients or the general public or maybe people in social media or wherever you are posting, they can tell that there's something not genuine, and it will actually have them not step forward and choose to connect with you. So if your desire is to actually connect with people, if your desire is to share something that you have created or some thought that you have, or maybe you've written a blog that you want to share, when you are really writing, speaking from that space of vulnerability, it draws people in. It doesn't hurt you. It really, really draws people in. And when you actually have those barriers down and you are willing to be completely open, nobody can hold you hostage. Nobody can say, hey, I'm going to expose you of this. Because if you're willing to really be as open and as free with what's going on with you, they can't stop you and they can't hurt you. And that is the power and the potency of being vulnerable. And, we're going to go for a break in just a minute here, but when we get back, I want to tell you about a recent occurrence in my life, something that, I've been wanting to step into more and more, and what actually has come out of that and where I am today with it. It's really, I thought I knew where it was going to go, and it's opened me up even more. It surprised me even more than I would have even imagined. And so I'm excited to share that with you. So before we go to break, I just want you to just tap into the spaces and the places where you've not been willing to be vulnerable, where you've not been willing to allow somebody to see the preciousness of you, the sweetness of you, the rawness of you, maybe some of the scars of you. Just tap into that. And I'm just going to ask you right now, just drop your barriers just a little bit. You're safe right here, right now. Just drop your barriers just a little bit. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this. And yeah, it's going to be story time, Faith, after this. And if anyone has something out there they would like to have a little bit of facilitation on, I'd love to hear from you. You can come over to inspiredchoicesnetwork.com, call in through the Skype, or we've got our phone numbers in the U.S., 815-880-8255, or in Canada, 613-800-8736. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back right after this commercial break.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning in to Inspired Choices radio show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Hey, did you know why they call the foundation? It's called the foundation because it completely eliminates your foundation for what you thought your reality was and creates a whole new space where you can have an entirely new reality that is foundationless. So from my point of view, they should call it the unfoundation or the foundationlessness. Either way, there's a big new global rewrite happening again because these guys cannot stop changing. There should be like a Change Anonymous that Gary and Dane go to. And it's happening April 28th to May 1st. You can find out about it at accessconsciousness.com/global foundation. It's happening in Paris. Go to Paris or do it online or find a pod near you. These are all the options you have. And what else is possible?
This is Inspired Choices radio show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So glad you're back with us. And I'm so glad that that commercial just made me laugh, and I just kind of threw me off a little bit with the topic. So we actually have somebody in the chat room. If you'd like to come join us in the chat room, that'd be awesome. She says, I'm thinking about our call one-on-one and how much of a gift it is to have someone willing to be vulnerable and present. I really don't have that with anyone but my son, and then it's kind of one-sided because I can't share everything with him. Totally get that. So that kind of is in conjunction with what I wanted to share and what surprised me. So, one of the things that a lot of coaches do is they are continuously doing self-development themselves. They see the value in that, and they're willing to continue to dig deep and to dive down wherever they need to go. One of the gifts in doing that, at least for myself, is it allows me to be in touch with where other people are at, where what they're going through is very personal and close to me as well. So this is something that I've continued to do. So this year, or just most recently, I've been doing some personal coaching with a lovely woman by the name of Suzanne. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was look at my business and really look at what else was possible with my business. It's something that I just love and desire to create even greater in the world. And one of the things that she really touched on, which actually, wow, okay, so here come the tears. One of the things that she touched on was that while I do an amazing, what I do, and she was referring to the radio, she said, what you say that you're going to deliver and what you actually deliver and your team delivers on the radio is very different. And I was like, what? So right away I went to the negative. I thought, she's going to tell me like I'm doing something wrong, total humanoid who judges herself all the time. That's exactly where my mind went the very first second she said that. And I said, tell me more. And she said, you said you were going to do a lot of things and you do them. But she said, Christine, what you and your team do and how much you actually care and how much you guys, how much you guys actually have our back and how much you, you're there. You guys care. You guys want us to really succeed. And it just like, oh my God, it really touched me, obviously, tears again. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So where is this going? And she said, well, Christine, when you're connecting with people, she said, what if you were to open up your heart just a little bit more? And she said, what if you were to, drop that barrier that you have up? She said, you're a wonderful person, but it feels a lot of the time that you have this wall up, that you're afraid of something. And of course I burst into tears because, hey, you know what? It's true. I've had quite a journey in my life and desire a lot to succeed. And so, I did not expect this tonight. Wow. Just give me a second. So, I'm always trying to put my best foot forward and wanting to succeed and wanting to do my very, very best. And sometimes I think that these tears and opening up will actually have me be judged or seen as unprofessional or, and sometimes it's not even cognitive that I'm doing that I actually have this wall up. And so, a lot of people joke and about, that I can be really strong and very direct and it can be pretty overwhelming sometimes, and I get that, and I also get that a lot of people have told me many times they love that about me because, I come across very real, and I am, but when she was saying this to me, I really got how much I was actually cutting off, and how much I was not being the invitation to create even a greater connection with people. And it really surprised me. I thought I had been in that space of changing that a lot, and I guess there's still more room to change. So she said, would you be willing to just open up your heart 3%, just 3% more, and really connect with people from that space? And I'm like, yeah, I can totally do 3%. So what I started to do was really connect as I was connecting with people who are interested in doing a radio show. I would just, before I would get on the phone with them, I would just drop my barriers and I would open my heart up just that 3% and just be really present with them. And, I know it changed it for them, but wow, it really, really changed everything for me. I've been so enjoying things so much more and connecting with people and meeting them where they are and sharing something maybe that comes up in conversation and I'm willing to see where they are and what's required with them in that space of being vulnerable. And wow, I'm telling you, I'm enjoying things so much more that I couldn't imagine. I thought it was going to change people wanting to work with me. And I think it has, but what it's changed is me showing up for me and enjoying the process of being me even more. So, wow. So one of the other things that I started to do and one of the things that she said, I really wanted to increase my coaching, and I love coaching one-on-one with people. And over the last year, I had become so involved with creating the network, and I hadn't really been putting a lot of time into my coaching and really been nurturing it and growing it, and I really love coaching a lot. And so she said, Christine, it just doesn't read that a lot of people know that you're a coach. And I'm like, really? I was really surprised, because that's something that I've been doing for more than 10 years. And you think people know what you do? That was a surprise. And so she invited me to maybe offer people 30-minute sessions so that they could get to know me as a coach. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And so I actually started to do that, and I'm actually still doing it if you're interested. And I started to do that with a lot of people, and I actually got this target in my head as I began to create it. And my target is actually to coach 100 people. And I don't know why that number, but I just really wanted to spread my wings a lot. And I love coaching. And I have been meeting people from all around the world. I have had a huge contingent from the Netherlands, which has been so amazing. And I have had people from all walks of life and all ages, and it's been so wonderful to meet these people with no expectation that they do anything with me. But I am showing up with my heart open even more. And what's really been occurring is, with my barriers down, I have been a more potent coach ever since then than I've ever been before. And wow, what a gift. My heart's opened up because I've been willing to be vulnerable. I'm enjoying being with me in my creation, and I'm enjoying coaching even more, and my capacities have increased. What? From the willingness to be vulnerable, all of this has been created? You could knock me over with a feather. I swear to God, I never would have imagined that this is where I would be with this choice of being vulnerable. So what could possibly be created with you and your life and your business and your relationships and with being in the world if you were willing to drop your barriers and allow yourself to be vulnerable? I just cried for the last 15 minutes or so on the show. I'm still here. I'm okay. Nothing has hurt me. And in fact, more people are coming into the chat room. So how does it get any better than that? Do you see that the willingness to be you, to really show up, how that is so sexy? It's so attractive. The energy of being you and really opening up draws people in. It draws people in because they know you're being real, and they don't have to kind of double check, what are they doing, what are they selling, what are they pushing, right? They don't have to have their barriers up when you're willing to have yours down. They don't have to be on alert, and that is what is so amazing. It's like the moth to the flame. You're drawing people into you, and you're creating a greater connection than you've ever had before. Would you be willing to have that in your life? Would you be willing to just do what I was able to do and just open up your heart just 3% more? And drop those barriers and connect. And even if it's connecting to the person you live with just a little more. When we get back after this next commercial break, we'll jump into a little bit more around what vulnerability can actually create and a lot of the lies that we buy into that we can change. So you are listening to Inspired Choices here on the Inspired Choices Network with myself, Christine McIver, the person crying tonight. And when we get back, we will talk more about the willingness to be vulnerable. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning into Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What if you really do change molecules by your interaction with them? What if the change you've been looking for is right before your eyes? What if the uncomfortableness that comes with difference could be fun? What if the closed-minded people of the world no longer determined our world? What if gratitude trumps judgment every time? What if your kindness healed the world? What if the earth is asking for your help? And what if you had the resources to give it? This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Picasso, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Aristotle all knew to be true. Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. What if there are no dumb questions? Or any question too large? What if you being you are the gift and the change this world requires? Is now the time? For more questions to create a change in your world, sign up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. My gift to you, beingyouclass.com.
This is Inspired Choices Radio Show with Possibilities Coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Well, here we are again. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If you're listening live, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're listening in the replay, thank you so much for clicking on here. And please know that if you have a question after the show that you would like to connect with me, you can always send me an email about any of my shows, Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. We love, all of the radio show hosts love to hear from our listeners. So before we dive back into the show, I just want to tell you a couple of programs that I've got going on right now. Actually, 3. My wonderful creator of Magnitude, Rhonda Burns, and I have been doing for the last, I think it's 2 months, we've been playing with money, a money class called The Pleasure of Money. And it has been so incredibly potent. I have enjoyed that class more than any class I've ever participated in or done. I'm telling you, it has been the bomb. Yeah, we've been making the love to money. Exactly. So The Pleasure of Money. And it has been so phenomenal that we are actually now, and you can still get that. That's 6 calls, 90 minutes each. You can get the audio, and you get this amazing amount of information in a document that another amazing creator, Melitza Jelinek, works with us, and she is phenomenal at it. She's a great contribution to all of us. So you can get all of those 6 calls, recordings, and the documents for only $10. We will definitely have that link in this replay if you would like to take advantage of that amazingness. It's like holy moly. And then we are now moving to, and starting next week, actually Tuesday, May the 2nd, we are starting with the Advanced Pleasuring Money. and it is going to be so phenomenal. Like, I am telling you, I can hardly wait. I'm getting so many downloads about this. It's been phenomenal. So we will have that there as well. And that class is actually $75. It's going to be 5 calls. Again, you will be able to join us via Zoom, video, audio, and of course the amazing PDF documents. So if you're looking to really have something different with money and have a completely different perspective, the two of us knock it out of the park. I'm just saying, we are pretty friggin' amazing, and we love it, and we've had nothing but praise from the people who've participated with us, which is so awesome, because you know what? We really did it for us, and that this was just like icing on the cake with everyone else. So the other 2 creations that I am creating, my gosh, 2 creations I'm creating. Do you think I can talk tonight? The first one I want to tell you about is something I'm so excited about. It's called the Up Your Ask program. So Up Your Ask, we talk about receiving and ask and you shall receive in the universe. And a lot of people talk about having a receiving problem, that they're not receiving. Well, what I really began to realize as we were actually doing the calls, the money calls, is that most people aren't asking. They actually have an asking problem. So I've created a fun 100 days of Up Your Ask. You can join a Facebook group where we're going to be strengthening our ask muscles, and we're going to be playing in there each day. I'm going to do a little video, a live video, 5 to 15 minutes, depends on what's coming up that day. And you can get that all for only $10 Canadian as well, which is like insane. But I'm, again, doing this for myself and seeing what we can all create. Like, imagine hundreds of us in there creating the change in the world. The willingness to ask is going to be fantastic. And then the last one I'm actually creating is called the pleasure of business. The pleasure of business is about taking everything that's difficult and hard, that you're having trouble getting into actualization and you know, really getting it out in the world and setting up your business so it's pleasurable. And we do this on a weekly call called The Pleasure of Business, and it is dynamic. So we'll get all of these. Be sure to have all of these in the replay link that you can come play with us. And if you want information immediately, feel free to email me, Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. So that's everything that's going on right now. So back to the vulnerability. So I actually asked this question right before the radio show started, and I actually asked, what do you hate about being vulnerable? And these are some of the answers. You've listened to some of my shows, you would know that, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Being taken advantage of. Well, you know what? When you actually have your barriers down and you're willing to be vulnerable, your awareness is actually heightened, and you will be aware of where someone's operating from, which will put you less in the position of being taken advantage from. The intensity, yes, sometimes the intensity can be difficult in the moment, but afterwards it can actually be phenomenal. Like right now, I feel like I'm flying high, right? After what was created in the first half of the show. Another person says getting hurt and being used. Another one says when someone makes a strike at you. That's like asking, what do you hate about being human? To be vulnerable denotes strength of character. Wow, that was really cool. So he didn't actually say what he hated. He actually said what was really true. So how many of us, how many of you that are listening and how many of you that are in the chat room actually said yes to when I was reading those out? How many of those were true for you? Oh, sorry about that. How many of those really read true for you, that felt like, you know, that's what's happened to you in the past? Do you understand that when you have your barriers down and you are willing to be vulnerable and connect with someone and to really see someone, that those things actually can't be created. They cannot hurt you because you're going to be aware and you're going to be in touch with them. Now, if you buy that someone can hurt you, if you believe that someone can hurt you, and it really is a belief, then when you are vulnerable and they turn around and say something unkind or their actions are unkind, yes, you can actually create that. But if you're willing to actually see the power and the potency that you have and how much power and potency there is in being vulnerable, that cannot be created. When you are willing to put everything out there and you're really willing to say, this is what's going on for me, I'm telling you, since I've been doing that over the last, I would say more and more and more, over the last 6 months for sure, the connection with people has been phenomenal. And you know what else? My business is growing. My business is growing. My relationships are flourishing. How much ease that I'm having in my life is also growing. The willingness to be all of you and to be able to be in that space, you will start to see where people are operating from and see where they are being vulnerable or where they are putting up a barrier because they're afraid to be vulnerable. When you are in that space and you're being vulnerable, you're willing to be vulnerable, when you have your barriers down, you will see where they're at, and you could actually be the invitation for them to drop their barriers, to let go of the lie that they can be hurt. Imagine a world where we started to drop our barriers and we started to operate from the place of what's going on inside of us. Can you imagine that? Imagine two children in the playground, and the one, oftentimes we talk about like the bully, the bully that picks on another child, that the bully's mean. Well, they may be acting mean, but what's going on inside of them may just be that they're afraid of something, that they're afraid of being vulnerable. When we talk about little boys and girls, when boys are like pulling girls' hair or poking at them or doing whatever, right? What do we say? We say they like you. That's one of the ways that boys actually show that they like you. And it's true. They tease you. Even men tease women because they've not been taught to drop their barriers and be vulnerable and that it's safe. And when you have that level of intimacy with someone and with a man where they're willing to drop their barriers and they're willing to be vulnerable, the connection is absolutely amazing. It's breathtaking. That is the thing that really juicy relationships are made of, when someone's able to really show us who they are. And I'm telling you guys, if you're listening to me, if you're willing to be vulnerable and you're willing to really tell, the lady in your life what's going on, you will draw her in so fast. I'm telling you, it will change things, because when we're willing to be vulnerable, what we're actually saying to the other person is, I trust you. At least that's what they pick up on. We don't need to trust someone to be vulnerable. The only person we need to trust is ourselves, knowing that we're in full control at whatever is coming up with us. Does that make sense? Wow, this has been such an amazing show. So many times I don't know where the show wants to go. I don't know where my show wants to take, where my business wants to take us, and yet every single time it always goes into an amazing direction. And I'm super, super grateful for that. So we're going to go for our last break of the night. When we get back, we're going to wrap up with any of your questions and comments and see where else vulnerability wants to show up. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on the past or what others think. What would our lives be like if we made choices based on what we desire in this moment? By tuning into Inspired Choices radio show with Possibilities coach Christine McIver, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to do just that. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to create the life and living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Hey, did you know why they call the foundation the foundation? It's called the foundation because it completely eliminates your foundation for what you thought your reality was and creates a whole new space where you can have an entirely new reality that is foundationless. So from my point of view, they should call it the unfoundation or the foundationlessness. Either way, there's a big new global rewrite happening again because these guys cannot stop changing. There should be like a Change Anonymous that Gary and Dane go to. And it's happening April 28th to May 1st. You can find out about it at accessconsciousness.com/global foundation. It's happening in Paris. Go to Paris or do it online or find a pod near you. These are all the options you have. And what else is possible?
This is Inspired Choices radio show with Possibilities coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. In Canada, 613-800-8736 or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying tuned tonight, and for all of my peeps in the chat room. It's been wonderful to have you here, and everybody that's been commenting on Facebook has been a huge contribution. So we're talking about vulnerability, and I believe we have a caller on the line. Jennifer, are you there?
I am. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hi.
What would you like to talk about tonight?
I would love if you would give us some insight on vulnerability with money and receiving.
Oh, we're just going to nail it out of the park with the last 7 minutes of the show.
You bet.
Well, how much, I'll tell you, the first thing that came up was hiding. How much are you actually hiding what's really going on with you around money? How much are you actually keeping it a secret and not being willing to really look at it? Anything that we hide or we have any kind of shame or guilt or, secret around, it actually has us captive. It's actually keeping us stuck. Would you agree, Jennifer?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so when you're willing to look at that and when you're willing to say, okay, this is where I am with very little energy on it. Okay, so this is where I'm at. And when you're willing to really, really be with it, it can't impact you as much. It can't hold you back from continuing to step forward. And when you're willing to say, like, I know that there's a lot of women out there still to this day that have no idea about the finances in their home. Shocking, but it's still going on. Okay? So if you don't know how to drive a car, you're not going to drive a car very well, are you?
No.
So if you don't know about your financial situation, you're not going to be very potent with your money, are you?
No.
So I know it seems pretty basic. A lot of people don't want to get vulnerable with really looking at their money. They don't want to look at what they've got coming in, what's going out, what's actually required each month. If you're not willing to get vulnerable with that, how can you actually be asking for more? You don't even know what you're asking for because, Jennifer, do you do this? I just want a lot more money. I want to win $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that changing anything?
No.
No, because we've got this arbitrary thing that we're throwing out there, right? And we're just like, oh, I want $1 million, which has the energy of, I'm desperate and I'm petrified and I don't know what the hell. And if I ever look at my money situation, I'm going to be really screwed.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't even like to balance my checkbook because it creates tension. So I avoid it.
Right. So, okay, I just got a really weird analogy I am not saying on the radio tonight. But look, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I had a young woman who I was coaching with, Jennifer, and I coached with her for probably maybe 4 to 6 months or something before she actually brought up that she had, a huge resistance to looking at her finances. And so much so that she cried for 2 or 3 weeks before she was ever really willing to look at it. And she said she was really embarrassed, and she said, I have piles of envelopes at home I've never opened, right? And, of course, my mind is going, holy shit, we might have some issues here, right? And I just said to her, okay, so how about you bring the envelopes and we'll just start to go through them. And, I said, I promise you will not be embarrassed with me. I have no point of view about this. We will just move you through it. So what we did is we actually sat at the dining room table, and I said, okay, all we're going to do is take them out of the envelope and turn them upside down. And we're going to throw all the envelopes on the floor, right? And so when we did that, we had 2/3 of what she had brought in was actually on the floor, right? Because there was garbage inside of them and all that kind of stuff. And then what I did was I went through them and I pulled out the duplicates, or, I kind of took out the final notice so that we only had one for each what was owing. The energy changed on it, and she was able to start feeling more empowered. So when you're willing to look at it, Jennifer, when you're really willing to lay it out and just see it as information, you start to gain more knowledge about your finances, right? And then you start to operate from that place of what do I desire to have in my life? So what is required for me to be asking for? You can't ask for an arbitrary number that has the energy of desperation, because that's not actually asking, right? That's a conclusion. You're not going to get it. So Jennifer, I have some homework for you.
Okay.
So would you be willing to drop your barriers, and not tonight, but would you be willing to drop your barriers and to sit with your checkbook and just see it as information, just information?
Yes.
Awesome. When will you have that done by?
Monday.
Cool. Will you email me and let me know?
Yes.
Awesome. So the thing is that when you are willing to look at whatever's present, you are in charge. You have the power. Nothing can hurt you. It's a lie that anything can ever hurt you.
Yeah. I think it got like 20 degrees warmer in my home right now.
You're welcome. Just drop your barriers even more and just know that you always have another choice, Jennifer. You always do. Money is energy. You've got to come play with us on our money calls if you're not. Money is energy. You can always create more. There is no lack of money in the world. That's a lie. It's the energy where we're operating from that is actually creating what's going on. So you got to come play on the money. You got to come play on the first one and the second one. And my God, we're changing it big time. Anyways, Jennifer, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for your call. Thank you for coming and playing in the chat room as well. So appreciate it. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Everyone, I'm not sure what next week's show is yet, but I'm sure it'll be something else that will surprise all of us. I appreciate so much that you connected in tonight. And if you have any questions or if you're looking for any of these classes that we're doing, please drop me an email. You can connect with me at my website, inspiredchoices.ca, or here on Inspired Choices Network. Of course, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you can catch me all over. And, please really remember that you can always make another choice. Have an amazing week, everyone, and be willing to be vulnerable.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Radio Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.